Breaking news tonight. He is known as America's Dad, but comedian Bill Cosby now the target of an LAPD police investigation for sex molestation of a then-teen girl. This as a high-profile reality star breaks down crying, shrieking, "Screw you, Bill Monster Cosby," explaining in graphic detail how Bill Cosby allegedly drugs and rapes her in a Lake Tahoe hotel room. Bombshell tonight as we go to air. 2 more women described being drugged and sex molested by Bill Cosby. Will Bill Cosby go to jail?
Getting on top of me, sticking it in, put his penis inside of me.
He's a serial rapist.
He approached me from behind. I reached over my shoulder and grabbed my right wrist.
You come to us, especially with a sexual allegation, we will work with you.
He has 4 daughters. How disgraceful.
His behavior was like that of a predator.
I'm no tacky bitch. Bill Cosby is a tacky rapist.
I'm Nancy Grace. I want to thank you for being with us. He's known as America's Dad, but comedian Bill Cosby now the target of an LAPD investigation for sex molestation of a then-teen girl. This as a high-profile reality star breaks down in tears, shrieking, "Screw you, Bill Monster Cosby," explaining in graphic detail how Bill Cosby allegedly drugs and rapes her in a Lake Tahoe hotel room. And tonight, as we go to air, 2 more women described being drugged and sex molested by Bill Cosby. Will Bill Cosby go to jail? That's the big question. If this were anyone else but a TV star, would they already be in jail? Tonight, the legal community swirling over whether Cosby can actually be prosecuted. But this is what we know. That police report to the LAPD is a game changer. That woman coming forward with allegations that he sex molested her when she was a teen. And now there's a police report. It's not just hush-hush civil suits. There's an actual criminal complaint. We are taking your calls straight out to Steve Helen, writer with People magazine. Now, 2 women have come forward, and everybody, for those of you watching, they are joining us tonight, telling their stories and taking your questions. They are not afraid of the glare of the lights from a camera. All right, Steve Helen, who are these 2 complainants, and what's their story?
Well, you know, the interesting thing about this, Nancy, is that you know, their stories are, these are 2 women whose their stories are very much like the stories that we've been hearing before. That's the interesting thing about this. We're not seeing a lot of deviation in his MO and the way that things were done. And that's what gives these stories, you know, some credibility and a ring of truth to them. And it's very brave for them to come forward at this time.
The ladies joining us tonight, Helen Hayes and P.J. Mastin. First, straight out to P.J. Mastin, who says she was sex assaulted by Bill Cosby. Ms. Mastin, thank you for being with us.
You're welcome.
Ms. Mastin, you have been attacked, ridiculed. Everyone's trying to figure out why you're coming forward. Before we answer those questions, I know it's a painful subject, but could you please, for our viewers that are just meeting you, for women out there, PJ, that are now hearing your story for the first time, will you tell us what happened?
Well, I met Bill Cosby in 1972 when I was a Playboy bunny in Great Gorge. He was a headliner there. He was always performing there, and he was always very friendly with all of us. I then went on to New York City and then to Los Angeles and then to Chicago. In 1977, I believe, in Chicago, he was being interviewed in the Playmate Lounge with a reporter, and after they had their lunch and their interview, he asked me if I wanted to have lunch with him, and I said sure, because I hadn't eaten. So we went around the corner to a place called Banquet on a Bun, and it was a little hot dog joint, and he was flipping hot dogs and French fries and everybody in there was laughing and carrying on. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. The next day, I left and I went back to work. The next day, he phoned me on my private number at Playboy, which I didn't understand how he got that number, but he asked if I would join him for dinner that night. And I said, sure. I thought nothing of it. I know of him for 5 years. He told me to meet him at the Whitehall Hotel, and I showed up at the particular time he told me to. And when I walked in, there were 4 other men, and they were smoking cigars, watching sports.
Why did you think you were meeting him in a hotel?
I just thought that's where we would meet up and then go out to dinner.
Okay, because he was in from out of town, right?
Oh, yes, he was in from out of town. And the 4 men were drinking and smoking cigars and watching sports and playing poker. And he asked me if I wanted to drink, and it was early in the evening, and I said, oh, I'll take a little Grand Marnier. He didn't have the bottle there, so he sent a bellman to get a bottle. He came back about 15 minutes later with a brown paper bag, and he asked me if I wanted it on the rocks or straight up, and I said, I'll take a little bit on the rocks. And I did drink half of it, and the next thing I knew, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. I was in bed looking at him next to me. I was all bruised and battered. I slivered out of the bed, collected my clothes, was very careful not to wake him. I got dressed, and I went downstairs, got in a cab, and went home, took a shower, and went to work at Playboy. A couple hours later, he called me in the office and asked, why did I leave? And I said, I was scared to say anything. I said, had to go back to work. So he says, I'm sending you a gift. About 4 hours later, a 4-foot ficus tree showed up in my office with a note on it that said something to the effect that friendships have to be groomed like you have to groom this tree. And I didn't quite understand that, but he phoned the office again, and he proceeded to tell me that I had a certain way to water the plant and how to clip the leaves, and I had to groom this side of the plant, and I ended up throwing it out. He continued to call, and I kept turning him down, and then he would call and ask for particular bunnies, and I told him he couldn't talk to them on the phone, and I would take a message. I took all the messages for weeks, and I threw them all out. I did tell my supervisor what he had done to me, and my supervisor said, do you know that that's Hefner's best friend? And I said, yes, I know, but this is what he did to me. And she said, nobody's going to believe you. I suggest you keep your mouth shut. And that's what I did.
You know, Miss Mastin, when you retell that story, what does that do to you when you tell that story? What's going through your mind and your body as you're retelling that?
Well, when a person is raped, you're not only physically raped, but part of your spirit and part of your soul is raped. And when I tell this story, I can feel that part that is lost in me. And it's been a lifelong therapy. I have PTSD, and my job was to protect my bunnies, and I never, ever failed them, never. And for me to be drugged and raped by him was a secret that I've kept inside of me for many, 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 many years.
PJ, I've dealt with so many rape victims and child molestation victims, and a common theme is that in addition to the physical aspect of a violent crime on your body, there's the feeling of helplessness, of powerlessness, feeling like nobody believes you, and it's kind of your fault for some reason, and that there was nothing you could do to fight back. And it's that feeling that I have observed causes so much damage to crime victims. I want to ask you, you said that you woke up bruised and battered. What do you mean like that? What do you mean by that?
My body had bruises on my inner thighs. I was bruised pretty badly, It was an act of violence. It wasn't a sexual encounter. It was an act of sexual violence.
So you drink a glass, or part of it, you said about half of it, of Grand Marnier
Yes.
on the rocks.
Yes.
And the next thing you remember is 4 o'clock the next day?
In the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, yes. And this was about 7 o'clock in the evening, 7:30 in the evening when I went there.
When you spoke to Cosby after that, which clearly you did either of you bring it up?
I was frightened. This was Hefner's best friend. I was told to shut my mouth. I was told not to address it, not to talk about it.
Why did you finally begin talking about it?
When I saw this woman come out and said that she was 15 years old and was raped and drugged by Bill Cosby at Hefner's mansion, that was it for me. All bets are off. This is a child. A 15-year-old girl is a child. Her innocence was destroyed. Her life was destroyed by this monster.
Did you ever pursue him civilly?
Never.
Now, see, that's interesting, PJ, because every time another woman comes forward, everybody says, not everybody, but a lot of people, what's in it for her? Why is she doing this? Why is she doing it now? What does she hope to gain? You know what? You're not gaining anything. You're not suing civilly. You haven't made money off this. So why are you coming forward now?
To protect young women and all women against sexual predators. It has to come out. There's just too much with college campuses, with slave trading. Women are disposable. This has to stop. This has to stop. But Nancy, I have to tell you, and I have to make this statement, under no circumstances ever did I ever believe Hugh Hefner knew any of this behavior. Ever. Mr. Hefner was a wonderful man to all of us, and he would never, ever allow this kind of behavior to go on. Never.
With us is PJ Mastin, Gloria Allred, and Helen Hayes, who is here to recount her allegation that Bill Cosby molested her. We are taking your calls out to Lisa. Hi, Lisa. What's your question?
Hi, Nancy and guest. Just a quick question, please. Bill Cosby played a loving father role, which I know is pre-rehearsed and so on and so on. And I'm just wondering, please, do you think in real life, with all the abuse that's came out, that he played a positive, good role for his children?
Let me think about that. You know what? I'm going to have to bring in the lawyers and a shrink. Joining me, in addition to renowned lawyer Gloria Allred, Jason Oceans, New York, Trent Copeland, L.A., and Cheryl Hunter, trauma recovery expert and author. Cheryl, I'm going to throw this one to you. I mean, a role model for his children?
Nancy, I can't imagine if the allegations are true that's actually the case. A tiger doesn't change his stripes. It seems implausible if these allegations are true that he could be different in one area than he is in the others.
With me, Cheryl Hunter, Trent Copeland, Jason Oceans, and Gloria Allred. Two more ladies coming forward describing a sex molestation by Bill Cosby, America's dad. Now that the LAPD has joined in, will Cosby go to jail? Take a listen to what Janice Dickinson told me.
I woke up the next morning after Bill Cosby mounted me, had sex with me. The first thing I remembered the following morning, I have a daughter. I remember pain, swelling, semen, and both, it was a puddle of this man's aftermath of his way with me. I'm not proud. I'm really, yeah, and I was in a lot of pain, and it's taken me a long time to get over this one, Nancy. It's the right thing for me to tell you. Just hoping my story will get somebody else to talk about what happened to them.
With mounting accusations of sexual assault by TV mogul Bill Cosby, the U.S. Navy, universities, and television projects have distanced themselves from Cosby within the last month.
I said, you raped me, Bill Cosby, you raped me.
Say to Bill Cosby, you do owe me an explanation for why you did this to me.
You're carrying the secret inside you that you know really what this man is capable of.
Tonight, joining us, two more ladies that make allegations America's dad, Dr. Huxtable, Bill Cosby, molested them, sex molested them. This in the wake of the announcement that the L.A. Police Department is actually investigating a criminal charge made by a woman who says Cosby molested her when she was just 15 years old. Will Cosby go to jail? 21 women that we know of, the number growing, claiming that Cosby molested them. Joining me now, in addition to P.J. Mastin and her lawyer, Michael Bresner, Helen Hayes is with us. Also with me, Gloria Allred, representing her. Ms. Hayes, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Nancy.
Ms. Hayes, I'm overwhelmed because I, like so many other Americans, grew up watching Bill Cosby, watching Dr. Huxtable, and to hear all this, at first, frankly, I couldn't believe it. But then, when yet another woman, then Janice Dickinson, and finally, how many women does it take before people believe? When did you, Helen, meet Bill Cosby?
Well, it was in 1973 at the Clint Eastwood Celebrity Tennis Tournament, and I went down there in Pebble Beach, and I went with two girlfriends, so there were three of us, and we stuck together through the whole fun weekend. But it didn't turn out so well, and because Bill Cosby kept following us around all day Saturday, and we felt we were very safe because it was daytime. And after a while, to tell you the truth, it got boring. And then in the evening, when we wanted to go to dinner, we had to go in and out many restaurants and bars and out the swinging doors and down the alley and up to this restaurant and so on. And he followed us all that way, and we started to laugh about it. And then he found us in this one restaurant, and that's when he started putting his hand over his shoulder and grabbing my breast. And I couldn't figure out why. I kind of thought it was funny, and then it didn't take me 30 seconds and I was really ticked off. Why did he do that? And what gives him the right to even touch my body? And I just felt like he was stalking us, and then he's a predator. I don't know what better word to say than he's a predator.
Let me ask you this. At first, did you think that he groped your breast by accident?
No, absolutely not. He came right up and his body was against my back and his right hand came over my right shoulder. It was no accident.
What did you do, Miss Hayes?
I just kind of turned around and said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, have a nice evening, ladies," and off he went.
When you said something back to him, to Gloria Allred joining us, representing Helen Hayes. Gloria, you went to the LAPD, and there is now, thanks to you and your client, there is an LAPD investigation. What are the allegations in the police report?
Well, we can't speak about the allegations in the police report, but we did spend over 90 minutes with two detectives from the Special Victims Unit of the Los Angeles Police Department, and they were very sensitive to Ms. Huss's answers and were very sensitive in the way they asked the questions. So I definitely would urge and recommend anyone else who believes that they have been a victim of Bill Cosby and that he victimized them within the city of Los Angeles to accept Chief Charlie Beck's invitation to come forward to the Los Angeles Police Department and speak to detectives there and give their account and evidence of what happened, whatever they have, and not to worry about the fact that it may have happened many years earlier and may not be within the time period during which a criminal prosecution could
Gloria,
ensue.
I want to ask you a question. You and I have both tried a lot of cases. I frankly don't even know how many I've tried. I've always noticed this, and I noticed it immediately on my first rape case. You know, many years ago, corroboration was required for a prosecutor to present a rape case. There had to be bruises, there had to be a broken arm or a broken jaw. There had to be physical corroboration for a rape victim's claim before you could even take it to a grand jury. If you didn't have corroboration of her story, you couldn't bring a case. All right, that's not the case anymore. You don't need corroboration. But, Gloria, have you noticed, as I did, as a young prosecutor, that no other case is like a rape case? In a rape case, the victim is questioned like no other. Say a murder case, say an armed robbery, or you get carjacked, a home invasion. No victim is required to prove their case and is questioned the way a rape victim is. Have you ever noticed that?
I have noticed that. And by the way, in the case that we were just discussing, the one of Ms. Huff, to which we went to the Los Angeles Police Department, I did bring with 2 photos of Ms. Huff with Mr. Cosby and provided them to the police, and those photos were taken at the Playboy Mansion, and I have provided them to you. But you're absolutely right. When a robbery victim goes to the police and says, I was robbed, they don't generally go in to see what the background of the robbery victim was. But where it comes to rape, invasion of a young woman or an older woman's body, then it seems like all bets are off, and everyone, scrambles in her past, and do we have corroboration? And that's really wrong.
The next morning when I woke up, the last thing I remember, I had blacked out.
I woke up out of a very confused state.
Next memory is feeling drugged and him having sex with me.
Until the following morning when I woke up naked in his bed with him next to me.
I was in a white t-shirt and my panties, and he was looming over me in a white robe.
There was semen all over me, and that my pajamas bottoms were off. I just packed up and I got the hell out of there.
As we go to air tonight, 2 more went forward with claims that Bill Cosby sexually molested them. They are with us tonight taking your calls. Michael Bressler represents one of them. Michael, what do you hope to gain? He wants to point out, Michael, the statute of limitations is run. You can't bring a criminal case. So what do you hope to gain? Please answer that question for all of the people trying to discredit your client.
Thank you very much. Well, I think the real question is what do the victims hope to gain? And from my perspective and from me interviewing my clients, of which I have 5, they seek to gain vindication, to get their story out. For many, many years, they have kept this to themselves. And they seek, to my knowledge, to have the forum to be able to get their story out and express to the world what has happened to them.
And you know what's so interesting, Michael Bressler, representing some of these ladies, is that a lot of these ladies, they don't have anything to gain. In fact, when I spoke to Janice Dickinson last night, she told me that once she came forward with these allegations about Cosby, that her work has dried up. Take a listen, Michael.
But I remember his robe coming off. I remember he'd been smoking cigars. He smelled real bad. Real bad body odor the guy had. Bad. He had deep cigar breath and coffee breath. That's when he mounted me. He got on top of me. I remember, like, I don't know what happened to the camera then. And that's when the last thing I remember, I don't even remember dialogue, but the last thing I remember was him getting on top of me and sticking it in, put his penis inside of me, and I don't remember, but I remember the pain. And I remember pain, just a lot of pain downstairs. Getting on top of me, sticking it in, put his penis inside of me.
He's a serial rapist.
He approached me from behind. I reached over my shoulder and grabbed my right breast.
You come to us, especially with a sexual allegation, we will work with you.
He has 4 daughters. How disgraceful.
His behavior was like that of a predator.
I'm no tacky bitch. Bill Cosby is a tacky rapist.
Tonight, 2 more women come forward, 21 and counting, claiming that Bill Cosby sexually molested them. Straight out to Steve Helen, writer with People magazine. You know what everyone keeps asking me? They say, why isn't Cosby talking? Here's the deal, Steve. Why should he? All right? Because in his mind, I assume, or his lawyer's mind, the statute of limitations has run. You can only pursue a criminal complaint other than murder for a period of years. If you don't do it by then, it's all over. And the reason for that, Steve Helen, is to protect the defendant. The Constitution is all about protecting the defendant. Bill Cosby, or the alleged defendant, Bill Cosby, hasn't been charged criminally with anything, because defendants or targets are believed to be unable to put on a good defense years and years later. For instance, they can't come up with an alibi. Where was I 10 years ago? I don't know where I was. And so forth and so on. That's why we have statutes of limitations. They're all about protecting the accused. Accused is a better word because defendant bespeaks of a criminal investigation. So here's Steve Helen. Why should he say anything? He could just sit on his money. What is he worth now? $400 million, some crazy amount like that? And say nothing.
Exactly. There's really no reason for him to say anything. It's not going to help him in the court of public opinion. It's not going to help him with any civil cases that are raised against him. He's not going to, he's not going to lose much money by not talking at this point. He has a lot of money. He's pushing 80 years old. There's really no reason for him to say anything publicly, so I don't think we'll see that happen.
Well, unleash the lawyers. Jason Oceans, Trent Copeland, Gloria Allred with us, and Michael Bresler out of Chicago. First to you, Jason Oceans. You know, Jason, there are ways of tolling the statute of limitation. In other words, extending the statute, making it longer, particularly when a minor is involved.
Nancy, you're right. I mean, for different states under the age of 15, when the alleged defendant would be 4 years older. So there are certain, and of course in DNA, when DNA is discovered, and then statutes going from that period of time. So you're 100% correct as a good prosecutor. There are times you can toll a statute of limitations on a rape case.
You know, what's so upsetting about this, Trent Copeland, is we've got 2 choices, and neither one of them are good. One, all of these ladies are all just liars, and this is some kind of a money grab, although we've established that most of them, the vast majority, have not sought any money. You can either take it that way, they want money or PR, or they're telling the truth. And Bill Cosby is a rapist, a serial rapist, and he's going to walk free. Those are the 2 bad choices, Trent Copeland.
Well, you know, look, I don't know why anyone finds this surprising, Nancy. I don't know why anyone finds this surprising. Well, what's funny to me, Nancy, is the idea that this possibly could not be true. I mean, the reality is, listen, we just had the UVA rape case down in Charlottesville, Virginia. That case, Rolling Stone had to issue an apology, indicating that that case has now fallen apart.
This is not even remotely similar to that.
We had the well, it is, Nancy. We had the Duke case where we had a number of people, a number of young men who were charged with rape.
They're public.
Were charged with rape.
They are taking the heat for it. That woman still remains anonymous.
Well, hold it, Nancy. Listen, we've got my very good friend Gloria Allred right there And anytime I see Gloria involved in a case, Gloria is there for a reason. That specific reason is that she's seeking monetary damages. And if it has anything to do with PR, Gloria is also going to be there, and those people will be ably represented because she's one of the best at what she does in that regard. But the truth is, these people are also seeking publicity. Nancy, again,
just hold on
my friend Martin Singer, who represents Bill Cosby, has indicated, Nancy, listen, I find it hard to believe that all these women, after all these years, that none of them have done anything, have gone to the police. And the one that did wasn't found to be credible enough where the police could charge the case.
Thank you. Now, let's get the actual facts. Steve Helling, People magazine, isn't it true that most of these women, a vast majority, as I believe it to be, have not received money?
Oh, yes, absolutely. They have not received money.
No.
Many of them. Okay, I should say no. Very few of them, if any, have received any money.
Okay, so it's not
this
about
money. This is not a money grab.
And isn't it true, Steve Helling, that, for instance, Tarshish told me to my face that she was approached years ago by a tabloid offering her money to sell her story. She said, no, I don't want this to be in a tabloid. Some of them have been offered money that they didn't take, so this is not about money. And, okay, back to you, Copeland. Somebody fix his IFB. He obviously cannot hear. Did you not hear Janice Dickinson say that her business is drying up? What if you walked out of that studio you're in right now and found out you don't have a law degree anymore? What would you do? What would you do? Here's Janice Dickinson telling you, since I came out and said this about Cosby, my phone's not ringing. I'm not getting any work. So how is this helping her?
Nancy, what? She's on television. Every time I turn on television, Nancy, I see her on television.
I didn't
pay her. Is, she's in the business of PR, public relations, and she's getting a lot of it. She's in the business of doing this.
That's a heck of a PR stunt to claim one of the most powerful men in TV raped you. Yeah, that'll help. What about it, Gloria?
Yeah, let me just say, Nancy, that we've offered Bill Cosby a way to give his arguments in a court of law. All he has to do is say, I am not going to assert the defense of statute of limitations. I will invite all of these women to sue me in a court of law civilly. There I'll present my arguments to the judge and jury. They can present their proof and arguments to the judge and jury. And then let's see what happens in a court of law. I have not heard any acceptance of that proposal yet.
I woke up the next morning after Bill Cosby mounted me, had sex with me. The first thing I remembered the following morning, I have a daughter. I remember pain, swelling, semen, and both, you know, it was a puddle of this man's aftermath of his way with me. I'm not proud. I'm really, yeah.
Now, 2 more women have come forward claiming Bill Cosby sex molested them. Joining me, P.J. Mastin and Helen Hayes, along with their lawyers, Gloria Allred and Michael Bresler. Back to P.J. Mastin, who says she was assaulted by Cosby. P.J., you've heard the other stories, and it seems like the same M.O., modus operandi, method of operation, the wooing, mentoring, befriending, the drink of red wine or Grand Marnier, the drugging, and then waking up in the aftermath of a rape. These are the allegations. What rings out as similar to you, PJ, to your story?
It's the exact same M.O., drugging and raping. It's the same M.O. as many of the ladies. It's the same M.O.
You know, it's interesting, PJ, that you say, like Janice Dickinson said, like others have said, that Bill Cosby contacted you after, for what? Almost like as if nothing was wrong. What, to test the water, to see if you were angry, to see if you were going to police, what?
He would contact me constantly and ask me to go out and have dinner with him over and over again, over and over again. And he would call, and when I finally told him no, I wouldn't join him, he would call the office and ask me to get different bunnies on the phone. And I refused to do that. And then he finally said, well, have them call me. And he knew their names. And every single note I ripped up and threw away. I would never allow any of my bunnies to be subjected to this, ever. Ever.
I know, PJ Mastin, you and Helen Hayes both heard Trent Copeland, the defense lawyer, talking about credibility, essentially. Why would you come forward now? People getting PR or money. I doubt you're getting, you couldn't pay me enough to come forward with a fake rape allegation, number one. But number two, this is not the kind of PR people want, PJ.
It's shameful, but let me ask you a question, if I may, Nancy. Why is the Jerry Sandusky story with all those young boys held in a different light than we women? Why are we being scrutinized? Why are we being called a liar? And why are we being defamed?
I'll tell you why I think, and I saw this as I was prosecuting. I think that there are, as we all know, haters out there that for whatever reason are misogynists. They do not want to believe this of Bill Cosby, and they would rather, they find it more comfortable to believe that you are lying as opposed to that all of these 21 women are telling the truth.